We'll move on to item 7.4, consideration of cost-sharing agreement for Phase 2 of the Lake County Recreation Center feasibility study. And it looks like we have Lars with us, and we'll go ahead and pass it over to you, Director Ewing.
All right. Good afternoon. Lars Ewing, Public Services Director. As your board may recall, in early 2021, your board approved the county's participation in a cost-sharing agreement with the two cities, Clear Lake and Lakeport, to explore the feasibility of a potential future public recreation center or centers, plural, to be located somewhere in the county. Phase 1 of that effort was completed last summer, and at that time, your board received a presentation of that study, and you also approved financial participation in Phase 2 of the study up to a dollar amount of $31,000, with additional direction that the Phase 2 should investigate potential rec center locations in unincorporated areas of the county. So Phase 2, which is proposed to be moved on now, Phase 2 will include further analysis of possible locations to include unincorporated areas, development of concept designs, a more detailed operational analysis, and then a final presentation to each of the participating partners. One item to point out on the cost-sharing agreement that is included with this agenda item is the addition of the Lakeport Unified School District as a contributing partner to the agreement. And consideration of that cost-sharing agreement is the action that's requested of your board today. And one last item is just to point out the funding. Funding for this, at least for the county's participation in both phases of the study, is budgeted through the county budget through the Cannabis Internal Grant Program. So with that, I'll conclude my remarks and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Supervisor Sabatier?
Thank you very much. Thank you, Director Ewing, for bringing this to our attention. It appears to me when I was reading through the material that there's still the potential for what sites. I'm going to guess that with Lakeport Unified School District joining in, that maybe sites have been dwindled down to something more remote to where they are, or are they joining in even if it happens to go to Lucerne, Middletown, or Clear Lake?
Well, their participation in Phase 2 is independent of the selection of the location. It has not been determined. There's been no recommendation. I shouldn't say determined. There has not been a site recommendation from the consultant. Unified School District from Lakeport was a partner at the initial stage prior to any financial partnership in fact, they were a large driver for it starting to begin with. Out of a concern of the pool. They were really trying to get a pool in that area. The city of Clear Lake joined in as well, and we wanted to expand it to consideration for the county as a whole. So no, we have not come up with a recommendation for one location. The city of Clear Lake, you may note they have a reduced dollar amount in the partnership, primarily because they have already completed a feasibility study of their own for their Burns Valley property. Their remaining as a partner has to do primarily with operational considerations. If there are multiple recreation centers in the county, if there are ever multiple recreation centers in the county, their interest has to do with the potential organizational structure to manage something like that.
Correct. The reason I asked is because you said that we're going into Phase 2 of the project, and I didn't see anywhere on there where it says choosing a site. It says conceptual layout and design, project capital cost estimate, operational analysis, draft report, final report. I don't see where in Phase 2 does it decide which site. At what point would that occur?
That's going to occur essentially at the end of Phase 2. They'll continue their analysis of the potential locations, continue analysis of what the partners provide input on, and that will play into it. So the recommendation will come near the end, probably with recommended site number 1, number 2, number 3, something along those lines. But it's not spelled out as a broken out task, but it is in task 6. There's conceptual layout and design that would lead into, the top 2 or 3 locations. It's
Okay.
it's not defined that exactly, but that's the intent of it. And I did confirm, and I have it in writing, that they will be looking at locations in the unincorporated county.
Okay, and that was my question, because it says depending upon the optimum location. I wasn't sure if that was a unique qualifier or if that was multiple sites that would be optimal. So I appreciate that, and thank you very much for bringing this to us. Happy to see it moving into phase 2. Definitely a regional draw, not just a specific draw. Wherever it's going to be an opportunity for everybody around the lake to enjoy. So,
Absolutely.
All right, Vice Chair Scott?
And I just wanted to share, I know at the beginning when we had phase 1, we were really hopeful we would have more partners when we got to phase 2, but at least we have the Lakeport Unified School District partnering with us financially, and maybe after phase 2, maybe we'll have some more partners come aboard when we kind of can flesh out maybe where the best area for this to happen. And, this is exciting. This was originally on consent, and we pulled it off consent and had it so we can have a discussion. This is, this would benefit everybody here in Lake County, having a place to be able to go for our children. And just thank you for moving this forward.
Supervisor?
I guess my next question is, what are our next steps? Are you going to come back to the board when you have greater detail and a site and layout, or just when there's a need for funding? I'm just kind of curious because I'd love to keep track of what's going on, and just curious how the process will continue with us being engaged with it.
Sure. The way that the consultant's scope of work is spelled out, it includes a final presentation to the various jurisdictions that are participating. It likely will have enough, at least to do a virtual presentation as before we decide or before they establish a recommendation for a location. So I think it would be an opportunity at that point for them to come back to your board for an intermediate presentation, and if not them, then me, having had a conversation with them, meetings with them, and a presentation that is driven by them with their information, but maybe just me providing that update to you. So I think we'll make a way to come to your board before there's final recommendations for a location.
I'm excited to hear it.
So am I. I'll add that. I've been silent on that, but I think it's I think it's a really great project, regardless of any location.
All right. Vice Chair Scott?
And just to put it out there, this is going to be a very big project that's going to take millions of dollars for it to come together. So this might be another time where we need to sit down with multiple jurisdictions at one meeting to be able to have a full discussion with the school board and the cities and ourselves.
Director Ewing, I had a question. With cost-sharing agreements, if there's future cost-sharing agreements, what type of agencies can be a part of the cost-sharing agreement? I know you probably said this, but I just want to repeat it again.
Well, I didn't, and I don't know that I'm going to be able to answer that absolutely. I would think that coming to your board for consideration, there's any number of options that types of agencies, jurisdictions, organizations that could, I'll say partner with the county, but I'd need to defer to others to more definitively answer that question. The two cities, and in this case now the school district partnering, that was the arrangement that that we came to with this agreement. But I don't know that there's any specific limitations. But I'm extending far beyond my my area of expertise.
Ms. Grant, did you want to answer that?
Well, right now the agreement is limited to government entities, so any entity that is considered governmental could participate, certainly. You could open it up to private entities as well, but that might necessitate, and I couldn't tell this without looking further, might necessitate a type of public-private partnership arrangement to address the specific distinctions that would be made, but that's also certainly doable.
Okay, thank you.
And if I could offer that the cost sharing agreement is simply for this feasibility study. When we talk about the construction, operation, development, that's information to better inform us is actually included in the scope of this study to provide operational recommendations. For example, a joint use agreement, an MOU, some sort of special district. They're providing information about options, but by no means are they saying which one would be best.
And certainly if it were government entities, you could create a joint powers agreement and create a joint powers authority. I think that's probably what Mr. Ewing's talking about. But yeah, it's early days yet, but what I'm saying is that type of involvement could certainly happen. It's just perhaps different vehicles depending upon what's going on.
Thank you for that. Supervisor Pyska, sorry. I see you had your,
No problem. Yes, and we also have our Blue Zone partners who are in their initial phase of gathering and researching, and could really potentially bring more resources, maybe. Yeah, so I brought that up during my interview with them, and they were excited, as well as some other projects. So I think definitely inviting them to the conversation at some point.
Yeah, no, if I could add that the built environment portion of the Blue Zones project is there's a presentation or meeting next week that will certainly include this as a potential discussion point.
all right. Okay, I'll go ahead and open this up for public input. If there's anybody in the public that would like to state something, you have 3 minutes to address about this presentation. I'm not seeing anybody in the chambers. I don't see anyone on Zoom coming or putting their hand up, so it looks like we'll bring it back to the board, and it looks like we have action.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the cost-sharing agreement for Phase 2 of the Lake County Recreation Center feasibility study.
Second.
Motion by Vice Chair Scott, second by Supervisor Pyska. Johanna, please conduct the roll call.
Okay, Supervisor Simon,
Yes.
Supervisors Batier,
Aye.
Supervisor Scott,
Aye?
Supervisor Pyska,
Yes.
and Supervisor Crandall.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation, Director Ewing.